play again and again. Deadly violence, then global condemnation and hollow calls for restraint, followed by a blame game with each side pushing their own narrative. This is a conflict many reporters have covered for years, reported by my colleague Ben Wedeman. Now, before I bring Ben in, I want to do something different today. I want to read you part of an analysis piece that he has written for CNN, published on CNN. You can find it at CNN.com. In it, he writes, less than a year after the signing of the Oslo Peace Accords in the White House Rose Garden, on that hot, humid, hectic day, it seemed the Middle East's Gordian knot was starting to unravel. Peace in our time. It was an illusion. Well, this Monday, May 14th, 2018, was the day the last fleeting remnants of that illusion finally died. No single day highlights just how far this conflict has strayed into the disjointed, the absurd, the hopeless. Under the Trump administration, the United States has utterly abandoned any pretext of even-handedness, and the Palestinians have been abandoned altogether. Let's get you to Ben Wedeman, who is today in Gaza. And Ben, just place what we are seeing now, what we saw yesterday, the funerals that we are witnessing, with that which you have witnessed over the years.
Well, I haven't seen anything on this scale. I must, however, point out that today it does seem quieter than yesterday. But in terms of the sheer nihilistic desire of some of these protesters to essentially run to their deaths at the fence, really does underscore that there doesn't seem any effort being made to resolve this problem that has gone on now for 70 years, that the Arab world has abandoned the Palestinians. The Saudis have made it clear that their real concern is Iran's growing influence in the region, and the Palestinians look to the Israelis, who clearly realize that this is their moment when it comes to the American administration. President Trump has been more vocally pro-Israeli, and not just in terms of vocal expressions, but real expressions of support for Israel, with his breaking with decades of diplomatic tradition and recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. I'm just going to step out of the way as we see another volley of tear gas being dropped from these Israeli drones on the protesters. What you're hearing now is a small arms fire from Palestinian, probably Hamas fighters, who are trying to shoot down that drone, but so far it doesn't appear that they've hit their target. Becky?
Ben, Doctors Without Borders say the violence at the border is unacceptable and inhuman, saying in a statement, and I want to read this to you, it is unbearable to witness such a massive number of unarmed people being shot in such a short time, obviously referring to what we have seen Monday at the border, as, of course, the U.S. Embassy here in Jerusalem was opening. The group added that most of the wounded, and they are in their thousands, will be condemned to suffer lifelong injuries. A strong statement there. How does this end, Ben?
How does it end? If I knew the answer to that question, I wouldn't be here, Becky. It doesn't appear to have an end. There doesn't appear to be any real effort to bring it to any sort of conclusion. An effort was made by first the George W. Bush, or rather George H.W. Bush administration, followed by the Clinton administration. We had the Oslo Peace Accords, which did for a few years bring a glimmer of hope to this region, but really since the outbreak of the Second Palestinian Intifada in September of 2000, you have seen repeated efforts by the George W. Bush and the Obama administrations to somehow bring the peace process back to life. But on the one hand, you have the Palestinians divided between Hamas and Fatah, where I saw in 2006, there was 2007, that they were fighting in the streets among themselves. And you have an Israel that feels ever more empowered, an Israel that's a nuclear power, that has got a vibrant, very powerful economy, a military establishment that has no peer in the region, and Israel doesn't appear particularly moved to resolve the problem itself. Israelis will always tell you that many of them live in what they call the bubble. Places like Tel Aviv, where you might as well be in Los Angeles.
No.
You see no sign of the occupation that for many Palestinians is a very difficult existence. Becky, sorry, I'm just trying to keep.
And for those who may just be joining us, then if you, for those who are just joining us, if you want to just stand away from the camera, perhaps, and just again explain what it is that is going on around you.
Well, in the foreground, or rather the background, there are tires that have been burning for hours now, very near the fence that separates Gaza from Israeli-controlled territory, and we've been hearing, occasionally these drones that fly overhead and drop their tear gas onto the crowds. But like I said, it's not I, of course, wasn't here yesterday. My colleague Ian Lee was very capably covering what was going on, and clearly was much more of a chaotic scene. Of course, at least 60 people were killed yesterday, and last night many of the funerals took place. More took place this morning. I think many people think that after this bloodshed of yesterday, not such a good idea to come back here today, even though today is Nakba Day, the 70th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel, the day the Palestinians call the Day of Catastrophe. Becky?
Ben Wiedemann on the Gaza side of the border. Ben, appreciate it. And you can read the full article by Ben on the website. Check out why he believes the dream of peace in our time in the Middle East died on Monday. That is CNN.com. Whilst we've been discussing, the UN Security Council meeting on the ongoing violence along the Gaza border is ongoing. Kuwait had offered a proposed statement to the Council which expressed, quote, outrage and sorrow at the killing of Palestinian civilians exercising their right to peaceful protest. But according to a UN diplomat, the United States blocked that draft from going forward. Let's find out what else we can get from the UN. Our senior UN correspondent Richard Roth standing by for you. Richard?
Becky, very hard to follow veteran correspondent Ben Wiedemann in the thick of the action here at the UN Security Council today. Anger, passion, and theater, as usual, for a Middle East meeting, an urgent meeting regarding the developments there in Gaza and elsewhere. Here at the Security Council, many countries expressing their regret and condemnation of all of the violence. France and Britain, unlike the U.S., are calling for an independent inquiry and investigation into what's happened. But U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley was strongly critical of Iran for backing Hamas and for the Palestinian leadership in Hamas for fomenting this violence.
Make no mistake, Hamas is pleased with the results from yesterday. I asked my colleagues here in the Security Council, who among us would accept this type of activity on your border? No one would. No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has.
The Bolivian ambassador to the UN challenging Nikki Haley, in effect, telling the Palestinian representative to his face, the Security Council, in effect, has failed you. It's inoperative, and apologized to 6 million Palestinian refugees for the failure of the international community to act on their behalf. Now, Becky, the Kuwaiti ambassador, says he's going to introduce a new resolution designed to, quote, protect the Palestinian people. Doesn't involve an attempt to establish UN peacekeeping, which has been a failed idea here for decades. That resolution, though, is not expected to be voted on imminently and would likely be blocked by Ambassador Haley. Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon, using charts and pictures from the scene that we saw with Ben, said that war crimes are being committed by Hamas against the Israeli people. So the meeting here will go on. We will hear from the Israeli and Palestinian representatives shortly. Becky.
Richard Roth at the United Nations in New York. We are here in Jerusalem for you. My colleagues found out across the region, still to come tonight. Medical facilities in Gaza are struggling to treat all the wounded protesters. We're going to speak with the UN humanitarian coordinator. He says hospital staff are stretched to the limit and supplies are running out.
We are much more than #1 masters in finance. We're one pioneering institution, 1 million opportunities, one state of mind, one vision. EDIC Business School.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, their untold stories.
The death of Diana destabilized him.
Meghan struggled a lot with what she thought of herself.
The Meghan and Harry love story is a terrific story. A royal match, Saturday on CNN.
An invisible and powerful force leading change around the globe. From emerging markets carving out their place on the world map, to ancient cities like Athens reviving their economies. We're in Greece for a special edition of 1 Square Meter, exploring a thoroughly modern driver of global real estate markets. Foreign investment.
1 Square Meter, today on CNN, in association with MR.
On the next Vital Signs, it's the power of sport.
I wasn't going to let blindness rob me of my future. And so I did it. I continued to play football.
Meet 3 inspirational athletes whose sports are as much a part of their treatments as any medicine.
Did you apply some of that same athletic mindset to this disease?
I think being an athlete and being a runner has definitely affected how I approach surviving cancer.
Vital Signs on CNN.
There is growing evidence that the cobalt supply chain uses child labor. Companies say they're working hard to verify the source of all their hand-mined artisanal cobalt, but it's a difficult task. We're here to follow the supply chain and see if we can do it for them.
We've now witnessed for ourselves that children are working here, that they are involved with the production of cobalt.
Supplying your green electric car comes